Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours. We've been answering your media and tech-related questions every single day since March 25th, 2020. Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia is our reader today. So Alexander, what do we got up first?
Yeah, first question this morning is coming from Mike Edwards in Brooklyn, New York. Morning, everyone. Looking for a beefy all-purpose streaming computer under $1,000 for a project. What would be your recommendations? Good, better, best, please. I'm open to PC or Mac.
And we're going right back to Alexander. Alexander, what do you think?
For under $1,000 for a Mac, it would be difficult to do better than even just a plain M4 vanilla Mac Mini. That machine is so powerful. It comes with 16 gigs of RAM now, and I find that processor does quite a bit for that one. I'm using it here with Memo Live. Mike, I don't know what kind of application if you're looking at Memo or some other application to do this, but Memo Live runs really well on Apple Silicon, and I do quite a bit on that little M4.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, it depends on what you're going to be using it for and with. If you're going to be using any of the new Zoom apps that are written by Liminal, you're going to need a Mac. So I'd concur with the M4 stripped down. If you want a PC, if you're not going to be using that, you want to use OBS or one of the many Windows-based streaming platforms, the B-Link makes a nice Ryzen 7 for definitely. I'd put this in your mid category of good, better, best. This is a better. This is a Ryzen 7. It comes with 32 gigs of RAM, a terabyte of SSD and NVMe, and it's $500. It's small. It's lightweight. I would test it depends on whether some people have said that the network connectors on some of these mini PCs are running slow. They don't get a gigabit out of them. I would test it or look online to see if somebody has tested these, because sometimes they use a USB interface and sometimes that can bottleneck your throughput on if you're using the connector. The Ethernet connector to stream with. And I found that Wi-Fi 6 is really fast for most streaming anyway, as long as you don't have connectivity issues. If you're close to the router, it can still be a good alternative over the wired, if the wired is using a USB type interface.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, a little bit depends on what kind of apps you want to use for streaming. So, one of the things that we're missing right now that I think that a couple of us are talking about developing, if we don't see it soon, is a dedicated live streaming app that is just for the Mac Mini, just for the Mac, so that it doesn't do anything else. Like, it just does one thing, which is I get SDI video or HDMI video and I turn it into bits. And just as it turns, what we really want to do is turn the M4 into an appliance, that does it, and the reason for that is that it's so powerful. Like, it is such a powerful app. And the problem is that as you start adding all the other cruft on top of it, all the editing and sound and all the other things, you might want a couple things like that. But you're starting to add instability, you're starting to add overhead, you're starting to add, what we want is basically turn the M4 into an elemental, it's as powerful as the elementals that I've used in the past that I spent a lot of money on. And so I think that I've tested, we're looking at rolling out hundreds of these M4s for some stuff it's decoding, not encoding. But there's nothing under $1,000 that's anywhere near as powerful as an M4 Mac Mini right now. Like, it's not, there may be things in the future, but there's nothing close right now.
Chris Fenwick.
Alex, can you give us the origin and etymology of the word cruft?
Cruft. I don't know.
There's always things to learn here at Office Hours.
It's a technical term of lots of stuff that you don't really need that just kind of builds up around your application. Like just lots of little weird stuff that, you add all, there's all the, and so it generally makes a product less efficient, less stable. So it's lots of little things. So we just call it cruft.
And the origin of this word?
No idea. It is.
Okay.
It's one of those things that if you're in production, people call it cruft. I don't know why where did fax come from? Like, you try to find the etymology of fax, it's not clear. It's not
facilities. It's short for facilities. You have to check all the facilities.
Yeah,
fax the gear.
Yeah, that's there's a lot.
Wikipedia weighs in with cruft is jargon for anything that is left over, redundant, or getting in the way. It's used particularly for defective, superseded,
So it wasn't
useless,
just me.
superfluous,
The
or
point-
dysfunctional elements in computer software.
Point is that I do make up a lot of words, but I did make up that one.
No, that's been around for quite a long time. Even Wikipedia understands
It's
it.
named
Anyway,
after Harriet Cruft,
Who was
a
redundant
donor,
and really just
donor
annoying.
to the Harrier Otis Cruft, the building at the Cruft Laboratory at Harvard University.
there you go. So it came out of Harvard.
Poor
So-
Harriet. Like,
so much to learn here today.
Name connected to being redundant and not and getting in the way.
and came out of the Tech Model Railroad Club at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. So it's got a lot of educational background. Technical
Railroaders
term.
and Harvard donors.
Yeah. They were probably on the early internet banding it back and forth. Anyway, thank you for the question, Mike. Let's go to our next question.
This question is a QR code question from Jack Levinson in Seattle. We have a Netgear M4250 switch, and we're looking to purchase an SFP transceiver for it. Do third-party options offer as much stability as Netgear's own transceivers? Looking to determine whether 4 times the cost warrants it.
Alex Lindsay's going to start us off here, Alex.
I haven't used Netgears specifically, but in a project that I'm working on right now, we've bought a couple hundred of these SFPs for internet connectivity, and the cheaper ones definitely are less stable. Like I can tell you that like there's attenuation issues. There's they're more sensitive. For instance, if the light is actually too bright, as opposed to not, so they tend not to be as redundant. They tend not to be as stable. They tend not to handle challenging situations as well as some of the more expensive ones. But I don't know about the Netgear one, but I can tell you that we bought ones that are like $8, and we've had ones that are, I don't know, $30 or $40, and the $30 or $40 ones are working a lot better. In fact, we're replacing a lot of the 8 ones with the more expensive ones because they keep on not doing what we need them to do.
Omar Gadon.
Yeah, I don't have too much experience with the 4250, but I have some HP Arubas, and FS.com usually has pretty good support for alternative manufacturing, and you can get them in all the varieties of switches. So you can look there. I don't think they're 1/4 of the cost, but maybe half the cost. So try there.
Alex?
And it looks like there's a coalescence around Omar's comment of both Chris Sabato and James Haldane said they use FS for their SFPs.
Yeah. Hopefully, Jack, that helped you. Next question.
Another QR code question from Chris in Anniston, Alabama. Recommendations on software and services to run a 24/7 live stream to YouTube with the ability to interrupt the recorded content rotation with a live event.
Alex, dive in.
Yeah, there's a variety of software to do that. I only know the ones that are on the Mac, but these are built for TV stations or 24/7 systems that need to be able to do, be able to have ads, be able to tag things, be able to have play out lists, as well as being able to be interruptible in specific zones. And those are, first one is Softron. So Softron has on the air. And this is a playout system that will give you that an on the air, but you can, it's got SCSI triggers and lots of other things that are available for it. But it'll play 24/7 very solidly, and but you can set up interrupts to do live as well. And the other one is called Tools on Air, and this one, same thing. You have to decide whether you like the interface or some of the feature sets, but the two of them are very similar in the sense that they're designed for television stations, smaller television stations, to run 24/7 with playlists, and then you can create holes where your live will just get inserted into it.
Courtney Gooden.
Recently, I toured the Switch, which is a broadcast facility.
Is this the one at Victory?
Yep.
Nice.
And here in Culver City, and
It's in Glendale, isn't it?
Maybe it is in Glendale. Anyway,
I mean, you drove there.
Yeah, I can't remember. I go to all these different facilities.
It's in L.A.
It's in Glendale. Okay, thank you. What they were using is Dolphin, which is from Pebble Software, I think. And they're using this software control playout to handle all of their channels there. And they do a lot of live streaming and sports streaming and handle playout channels. So I think it would probably be able to handle anything that you do, but I do not know how expensive it is because it, being that it's in a huge facility like that, I imagine it could be a little costly.
Well, Chris, I hope that gives you some paths to go down. Next question.
This one is coming from the QR code. Roger Martin in Tonto Basin, Arizona is asking, buying an iPhone 17 Pro Max, would like to know recommendations, screens and lens protectors, a cage that will allow me to put on a tripod, and a device that allows me to add other connections like wireless mic, extra SDI, etc. Thanks.
Alexander Knight was going to help you.
Yeah, there's a bunch of companies out there that make accessories, cage accessories. We've talked about in the past before. Mainly SmallRig is probably, I would say, the safest bet if you go with their universal cage, and mainly because, every year Apple releases a new product. The dimensions of the phone changes, the thickness changes, the lens array changes. And so if you get those form-fitting cases, which I used to buy, they suddenly become a doorstop. And, I don't know what I'm going to do with all of mine. Probably have to smelt them or something, turn them into something else. But the universal one's pretty safe. It's got quarter 20 threads everywhere on all the sides, and you can attach a lot of accessories too. I don't know if you're looking for a specific recommendation on wireless, but if it's really not mission critical stuff, like a lot of the vloggers use the Rode Wireless Go products. They also make a shotgun mic that has a USB-C connector, but you're going to first want to think about your I/O. So you're probably going to want to stick some kind of USB-C hub that also allows power and multiple ports. Obviously, Blackmagic just recently announced an accessory that they're selling through the Apple Store for the 17 Pro specifically. That is a dock that gives you an HDMI out, gives you multiple USB-C out, gives you Genlock if you are interested in that sort of thing. So there's all sorts of accessories you can get for that stuff. Also, I just noticed that Tilta, it is a form-fitting case. They have a much more expensive cage here, and they have this package called the Kronos iPhone. I just love that name, Kronos iPhone 17 Pro Ultimate Kit, that comes with all this accessories. So you've got the extra handle and stuff like that, and LED light and all this stuff. You've got the little hub at the bottom there. So I think that might be possibly a focus wheel adjustment for doing pull focus and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of options out there. I'm sure Alex has a bunch of other suggestions.
Alex, take it away.
Yeah, the Tilta makes some great ones. I have a lot of SmallRig stuff, kind of because I started buying SmallRig stuff, and then I kept buying it. You're always afraid that the spacings will be different, and all the SmallRig stuff will kind of fit together. The rig this is a piece of one of the rigs that I have here. It's kind of sitting here because it's a little under construction. So this is the universal rig that Alexander was talking about. So you can kind of clamp it in, and then I've got tons of space around it. The advantage of this is that you keep on using it with different cameras, and you have more room to attach things. So I'll have electrosonic, receivers on these, a bunch of other breakouts and so on and so forth. The disadvantage of is it's really hard. You can't put the kind of the lens mounts and all the other things. So if you want to do that, you're really looking. There are some form-fitting ones from SmallRig. Tilta also, as you saw there, has a bunch of things that you can add to it. And then finally, Beast Grip is the one that Beast Grip's one used on large events, when they're shooting with the iPhone, and also filmmakers are using it a lot. It has a lot of lens mount options and so on and so forth. So you might want to look at Beast Grip. Well, it's going to be a form factor. You're going to buy it for the iPhone 17 Pro or Pro Max, and it's going to be able, you can attach big lenses to it and all kinds of other things. And so Beast Grip's probably the highest end one, and then I would say Tilta, and then SmallRig, although SmallRig is more universal and more flexible.
Chris Fenwick.
Hey, Alex, so I have a question for you. When the Blackmagic Camera Pro dock, whatever it's called, came out, I was like, what?
Well, it hasn't come out yet.
Well, no.
It's been announced.
I thought it was interesting that they went to Genlock. Like it just seemed.
Apple went to Genlock.
What's that?
Apple went to Genlock. Like that. So Apple made the Genlock available. You're thinking it's interesting that Genlock's available.
That between the two hive minds that they came up, that they realized that Genlock was important. And then I was just looking at this on the Apple website, and when you come down here under overview, it says It also lets you shoot LED walls with no distracting flickering.
Yeah. So
I'm wondering if the push to add Genlock is a byproduct of the fact that Apple has been, doing their keynotes shot on iPhone for the last few years.
Oh, I definitely think that's part of it. Now Apple didn't use any LEDs on this last one, so the LED wall may be over. Like Apple, I think this is another story, but I think that Apple is slowly moving us towards a movie about their product and slowly moving away from this keynote structure that we've had in the past. So we kind of went away from the stage, and now we're going to go away from the LED walls are gone, and now all you need is just to shoot a regular movie, not have this weird stand-up thing that everyone does their hands the same way and everything else. And so those are the
basketball.
Yeah, the basketball. So I think that's another thing. I think that there's a couple of factors that got the Genlock built into it. The number one is that Apple probably wanted it for, Apple has very high-end film people doing their keynotes with iPhones, and I'm sure they came back and said, hey, this would be really great, and if we want to do something crazy, we need those sensors to fire off exactly at the right time. And if you want to do it for LED walls, I don't know when you use an iPhone and LED wall environment, but you could theoretically do virtual sets, I guess, with it. And you do need Genlock for those types of things. The other thing that I think happened was 28 days later. So a lot of times a company will land on, like a filmmaker will say, I want to do something crazy. And the company will what do you need? What can we give you to make this happen? Because obviously it's really good PR for Apple to have a whole film shot on their phones. And so, or a big chunk of the film shot on their phones. And so I'm sure that when they built that, there was a rig that they built that had a whole bunch of cameras that were wrapped around. And you need Genlock to make that really work. So if they didn't figure out the Genlock for 28 days, 28 days later, they may have, or 28 years later, if they didn't figure it out for that, I think that the response to that, and that's been talked about a couple of times when they talk about Genlock, is being able to Genlock all of those cameras means that you can have this kind of crazy, they're all shooting video and you can rotate around the person in a kind of a chaotic way. And the phones turn out to be really good for this because they're relatively, from a filmmaker's perspective, they're relatively inexpensive phones. I mean, these are throwaways. The other options would all be more expensive than the phone. So if you added Genlock to the phone and timecode to the phone and were able to line these all up to the frame, it means that you can build these kind of crazy bullet time. You probably at this point, if you wanted to, you could build a really cool bullet time for, because bullet time was one, for those of you who remember The Matrix, there was a shot where Neo, there's a couple shots where people are spinning around. And what they used is these Canon cameras, and they were all set up to fire. And what they did is they used a program called Motion Builder. It might have been called Filmbox when they did it, but it became Motion Builder. And they designed the move, and they said, okay, well, for every frame, it has to be here. And so they designed the move inside of Motion Builder, got it to where they want it, and then they put a camera where every frame needed to be, and then they fired them all at the right timing to get that bullet time. Well, with today's technology, 25 years later, what you could do is have all the cameras just running, just turn them all on and run them. And if they were Genlocked, they'd all be running with the right cadence, so that you could literally do bullet time with iPhones now, and it would be way easier than it was with the SLRs that they were using back then. So I think that's where Genlock could be really interesting, and you could suddenly see a lot of bullet time. Chris has got the shows the those, and there's So anyway, there's all the SLR cameras, and each one of those shots had to have those cameras put in those, and each one of those cameras represents the position of a moving camera, and the frame that it's taking of the actors. And so what you could see out of this Genlock is a whole bunch of bullet time shots, that suddenly people start doing because they can, and so I think that's a big piece of it. LEDs is a big piece. LED walls are a big piece of that. Timecode is actually really useful if you want to shoot music videos or do other things with multi-camera. The timecode is actually really useful to be able to tie it all together, so you don't have to use audio to sync everything back up again. So for multicam, the timecode is, I think more people will use timecode than Genlock. But both of them are pretty useful. And then I've got another thing that I'm doing with it. I'm not ready to talk about in the show, but I'll hopefully share next week of other things you can do with that pod. So we're printing some stuff to make something else work. So stay tuned.
And I was looking at the chat. Guy Cochran mentioned Final Cut Camera 2.0, which was released just recently, also supports Genlock for cutting between multiple phones in an array shoot.
Right. So that's the array shoot, and if you're Apple, man, you sell a lot of cameras. Like someone wants to buy 20 cameras now instead of one. So there's, you could end up, it's not going to be millions of cameras, but I think that the other thing is that Apple is pressing down on something that Android users have a hard time. Android manufacturers, not users. Android manufacturers have a hard time because the Android phones don't have a very good recording medium. So they don't record in ProRes. They don't handle 2997 and 5994. They don't handle. And so what Apple's doing is kind of pressing down for creators that, even if they don't use all these features, they realize that this is they're building this idea of a higher end, capture device that the Android phones can't really compete with. And it would take an enormous amount of engineering for Google and Samsung to become competitive in this area. And I don't think that they care enough about it to do it. So it kind of leaves the creator market to Apple.
Courtney, you wanted to get in on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when talking about the time code and the Genlock, make sure that you have a source for that Genlock signal that integrates the time code so that the time code signal is integrated with the Genlock signal, so the synchronized vertical transition between one frame and the next occurs with the time code switch between this frame number and the next frame number. Because if you have just a separate LTC time code generator and you plug that into time code, then you got a blackburst generator and you plug that into the blackburst reference in. The frame rate on the time code may not be changing. It may be changing. May cause glitches like that halfway through your frame transition with a rolling shutter or a rotating shutter on a mechanical, or the mechanical rotating shutter or a rolling shutter on most electronic cameras that are not global. You want to make sure that you're synchronizing each horizontal line on each phone with each horizontal line on the other phone. That way you don't end up with discordant images that you're cutting between, which would generate tearing if you're moving between frames on them, or it would generate confusion if you're using them for stereo vision, in your eyeballs if they're changing, if the rolling shutters are changing at different times. So make sure your time code, which is used to synchronize the two video files between each other, is tied to your Genlock.
Alex, you wanted to get back in?
Yeah, and one of the challenges, and that is definitely what Courtney said is optimum. I very rarely have both of them integrated just because I don't have the tools to do all of those things at the same time. So usually I have an AJA sync generator.
Deneke makes, their Deneke's timecode generators, I think, have tri-level sync reference that's tied to the timecode.
Yeah, we should look at that. This is what the cable looks like to go to the, in case you're wondering. One of the things is that all of the connections on the new pod are BNC, so we need to go from this LEMO, this is for the sound devices, for the Scorpio, to generate timecode. But we're looking at a couple different ways of generating both timecode and Genlock for the cameras. So I hopefully will have a couple versions of that soon. So we need to be able to sync up two cameras effectively. So stay tuned.
Let's go to our next question.
Another QR code question from Jack Levinson, Seattle. I have a personal Dante network where all my devices have manually assigned IP addresses. I'm planning to integrate with another company on site who would like to share devices across both mine and their network. How can we integrate?
Omar's going to address this. Omar?
The official way to support two domains with Dante is via Dante Domain Manager. Excuse me. But that's a pretty challenging deployment, or it can be. If you haven't done it before, it's also can be cost prohibitive depending on your budget. I believe Dante's official recommendation is to leave your network unassigned. That's how I have my Dante network. And generally speaking, when that's the case, you can just plug right into somebody else's network if it is also unassigned. And so if you have a single Dante domain, meaning one subnet, then I'd leave it unassigned. I'd go back to unassigned.
Alex?
Yeah, and the recommendation, Mickey said to use a Dante bridge from Studio Technologies or SSL, and Chris outlined model 5482-01. That's Studio Technologies Dante bridge. The one thing I would look at as you look at investing in those things, look at how many channels you're actually trying to share between the two Dante networks. If it's not a lot, I have to admit, when I have two different Dante networks, oftentimes I'll drop some kind of stage box there and pull it out analog. Like, just give me analog signals, and I'll put a stage box next to you, take analog out, give me back analog in. And if there's a lot of channels, that doesn't work. But if it's a handful of channels, less than 16 typically, then I just want the analog back and forth. I don't want to deal with clocks.
Next question.
From Guy Cochran in Seattle, USA, what do you recommend for a used HD-SDI video router? 32 sources need to control over IP.
The first person with recommendations is Omar Gadon. Omar? I think you're muted.
Guy, it depends. What's your budget? I would probably recommend staying in an ecosystem that has wide support across different protocols. So Blackmagic's Video Hub, they're widely used, and there's a lot of support on BitFocus Companion, and of course with their app. AJA Kumo, I just bought a 64x64 AJA Kumo, and they have good support, and obviously they have a good reputation and are reliable. But man, they get up there, and they get up there fast.
Alex?
Yeah, I built a company on top of Blackmagic. I have lots and lots of Blackmagic routers. I would not buy a used one. The SDI has gotten better, but a lot of especially the older ones, the SDI connections are not great. And if they had heavy hands when they were doing putting stuff in and out, you may find that that they're not all working as well as they should at that point. So we have been very successful with Blackmagic routers, but we take good care of them, which means they're going to convenience panels. They're going to lots of things. Rarely does an average, person on site plug directly into one of my routers. So there's usually external things that they're attaching it to. They're not actually touching the router. Kevin currently is the person who touches the router, and he's very careful with all the little things and making sure that everything works. So I would recommend I'd probably lean towards the Kumo if I was going to buy something used, but I don't buy used routers. I will say that I don't, there's too many things that can go wrong with a router, and in general, electronics that matter. So routers are the core of what you're doing. I wouldn't buy a used one. I just wouldn't buy that. Unless it's for stuff that's for fun. If I was going to do pro bono work and I'm going to throw together a kit, I'm throwing together a kit for my daughter's band where they're going to have a little breakout system with an X32 and a bunch of other things for in-ears and to control the mix and everything else. That I can get some used stuff for, because it's something that they're getting started with. But for stuff that I'm getting paid for, I buy new things.
Next question.
This question is coming from Chris Frenwick in Emeryville, California, USA. Can we discuss how to deal with people that just want to pick your brain for intel, but don't want to hire you for your experience? Any good war stories? This came up pre-show.
Chris is going to start us off. Chris Fenwick.
So, Alexander, you were the one who brought it up. What was this? I'm going to use the word client with giant air quotes and a lowercase c. What was this client trying to do? Because they're probably not paying you. What were they trying to get from you?
It's not just one person. This happens a lot to me. I get a lot of people coming to me, emailing me and calling me, usually through work and stuff like that. I just get a lot of people that they want to do live streaming. Let's just take that as an example. And they don't know where to start. And so, I present to them the options. These are my services. This is how much it's going to cost for what you want to do. And then, of course, they just say, well, I can't afford you. So then they I don't hear from them for a while. And then they go and try and do it. They buy all this gear that they found on Amazon for dirt cheap. That is the wrong gear. I mean, some of the worst examples.
Probably selling used.
Some of the worst examples are people buying Bluetooth microphones. Okay, Bluetooth microphones to use for audio. So that just paints a picture of some of the people that come to me, and then of course, and then they ask all this advice, and I give some information out to them, but then they start to realize just how hard it is to actually do, and it takes a lot of look. I learned this stuff too. I had to spend a lot of years figuring this stuff out.
Yeah, I divide all conversations, and again, I'm not calling them clients. I mean, there's basically two categories. There's probably some intermediate categories, but in general, you have clients and you have what I call grinders, and they're just going to grind you down. They're going to grind you down for free information. Can I borrow this? Can I? What should I get? And I think that a lot of the trick to not getting grinded down by the grinders is a certain amount of accessibility, and I don't know what it is, because I don't deal with outside contact like civilians very much anymore at all, just the structure of our business. But it is a super interesting problem, and I had a guy once who hired me to scan a bunch of logos. This was a long time ago. And I told him how much it was. And then like a week later, he goes, "Hey, so I bought a scanner. Tell me how to do this." I'm like, I can't teach you at that time, like 20 years of experience in a 5-minute phone call. It's not that, well, what resolution? Well, it depends. And it's, that guy's no longer a client. And when you jettison the grinders, it gives you the ability to concentrate on the people that really want to hire you, actually work with you. And sometimes you just have to go, "I'm sorry, I can't do this." What's your idea, Alex?
Alex?
My idea? Oh.
I'm sorry, I was taking over the host roles.
Okay, it's all right. I can handle it.
So I'm probably the opposite of that. I will give people advice. In fact, I'm on a show almost every day where we answer people's questions about stuff for free. So I'm willing to give people as much information as they want. I have many clients. In fact, most of my clients started calling me, asking me for things, and I would just tell them what those were. I had, for the stuff that I'm working on the theater project right now, I showed up unpaid in LA to just see what the client was doing. I was invited down by somebody who was connected to the project. I answered a couple questions. In fact, I fixed a couple things during the day while I was there, and then spent the next 6 months having conversations without anything happening, like just talking and answering questions in meetings, probably 2 or 3 times a week, without getting paid for any of it, just providing the information that's there. And then, now, that client does about $500,000 of work a year. So for me, and now admittedly, the stuff that I do is pretty expensive. So there's a thing, and I'm going towards things that I'm interested in. If someone's doing something I'm not interested in, then I'm not that helpful. If they're just asking me how to do something that I'm not. But if they're doing something that I'm interested in, then I sit there and this client happened to be doing a bunch of things that I was fascinated by. And what I'm always looking for is being connected to people and learning new things. Like, that's all I care about. Like, the money follows that, and so if you give me access to things, like right now I have access to theaters. And so I do lots of research, and I figure things out. I get a couple hours a week to and that's my payment, for that. I mean, I get paid for that as well. But the point is that I will sit and tell people, like, someone called me last week and I spent, I don't know, an hour on the phone with them. They're doing some kind of event. And I was like, well, did you think about this? And did you think about this? And you might want to think about this. And you might want, now, am I going to do the job? I don't know. I don't care. Like, if they happen to hire me now, the problem with talking to me is that I will tell you all the things that you are not thinking about when you go down that path. And if you try to do all those things without someone like me, whether it's me or not, without someone like me, you're going to rip apart in the atmosphere. like I'm giving you all this information, and there's all this stuff of like, this is how the grownups do this, and this is what you're going to need to do, and this is how it's going to look. And are you, like, for a political event that someone called me about a couple of months ago, I was like, well, are you? So they were like, oh, we want to do this thing, and I was like, okay, so So are we going to put this on, do you need press pools? Is there a place to put the SAT truck? Are we going to support all of the press? And if we are we giving them video support, audio support, mult boxes, Dante-based mult boxes? Where's their riser going to be? Are you going to separate the riser from the photo, the video folks and the photo folks? Now, I may not get that job. That was, I don't know, a long time ago. I may not get that job, but when they really want to do it, they'll come back. I spend probably 30% of my time, and I work a lot of hours, so I still have a regular full-time thing, but I probably spend 30% of my time in meetings that I'm not getting paid for.
So I think with Alexander's initial discussion pre-show, the trick is how do you assist when you can, educate when you can, but also there's a certain point where you realize nothing is going to come out of this, and there needs to be a brush off that isn't just outright rude. Alex's brush off is shock and awe. Like you're going to get that guy to stop calling you because you're going to just keep piling on. Like, well, did you do this? Did you do this? And it's like, oh, okay, I'm talking to the wrong guy. I got to go.
And again, I have people that I've talked to for years. And the way that the brush off is mostly that I'm just not available for a meeting. Like I just go, but it's only if they're doing something that I'm interested in, I'll have meetings with. I've had people that I've had meetings with for almost every week for years. And because I'm interested in what they're doing or I'm interested in them, and we trade notes and I talk because they're giving me something. They're exposed. It's like a immunization. They're exposing me to a workflow that they're trying to figure out. The one problem that they have with me is that I'm integrating workflows all the time. So if you talk to me, I'm like, as you talk, I'm thinking about all the ways that could be done. And and if you don't hire me to do it, I might do it somewhere else. And it may not be something secret. If you sign me to an NDA, then I can't do anything with it. But if you don't, and you're sitting there talking to me about it, I'm assimilating that information into all the other information that I have. You're exposing me to a new problem, which I love. Like I love being exposed to new problems. So I love being interacting with those things. I'm curious by nature. And so a lot of these things help me think through things. And so I have a very long, I'm a different person in that way. There's a lot of people that if they don't see money within a couple of meetings, they'll cut someone off. And I'm just not that person.
Omar?
And my whole business, everything I've done for the last 30 years has been based on that long term.
Omar, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add, but I definitely fall closer to Alex's camp. I'm a notorious bean spiller. If you call me up, I'll talk about it if it's something I'm interested in or something I'm familiar with, much to the chagrin of my business partner. But I find that what goes around comes around. If I give all this information freely, eventually it's going to come back to me. Maybe not directly from them, but somebody they know, or at least I become an authority in their mind. And some time down the road, that's going to come back to me. So I've been burned a few times. There's a client in my space that, not a client, but there's somebody in my space that's called and got information from us a few times about potential projects, got some quotes, and then hired one of our direct competitors. And that's a little frustrating, but it hasn't shut down my business, and shame on me. Not a third time.
Alexander Knight.
Yeah. So usually what I'll do is I will give people, I will give them quite a bit of information. And sometimes I'll go as far as to even just send them a little spreadsheet. It's like, here, look, you want to do this? Here's the laundry list of hardware that you need. Here's the software. Here's some links to resources. And then they, a lot of times they back off and they realize like, oh, I've gotten myself into something very complicated and deep, and I'm probably going to have to hire someone. In the worst case scenarios, and this is where I find it frustrating, but also challenging to deal with the kind of people where I give out my personal phone number to some people, and some of the worst offenders, they're texting me every day. And then when I don't answer, then they're calling me. And I find this rude. They'll just call me throughout the day, sometimes like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And they're trying to get a hold of me. I don't know what to say to those people sometimes. I mean, I'm trying not to be brutally honest with them because like, they might get offended, but sometimes I feel like I have to, because That to me is crossing a line.
Alex, you wanted to get back in?
Almost nobody ever. I very rarely have I ever been taken advantage of, because again, if you talk to me, I'm going to absorb a bunch of information, and that's useful for me as you're speaking to me. I'm assimilating it into what I do. I will say that what Alex just said is one thing I don't do, which is I won't create documents for you. So as soon as I hate documents, and so no matter how interested I am with you, as soon as you say, "Can you create a document?" Our conversation is over. So unless I really think something's going to happen, I won't do that work, for you. Like if you want to have an open-ended conversation on a phone, if you schedule it, I'm pretty fine. I don't really worry about people calling me, because the way my phone's set up is that no one can call me between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. Nobody. And between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., there's a handful of about 15 people that can call me out of band. Everybody else has to be scheduled. My phone doesn't even ring. It doesn't, nothing. There's no notifications, no nothing. If you don't schedule something with me, it's impossible to get a hold of me. And that is a design that I would highly recommend.
I will attest to that. It's very hard to get in touch with you. You'll get a text message from Alex. Can you talk? Yes. Boom, it rings. And now all of a sudden you're talking to Alex.
Yeah. But you got to text ahead of time.
That has very much been my experience.
Yeah.
Next question.
Colin Lesta in Philadelphia asks, looking for rack mount power strip recommendations, ideally one with a cover over the power switch. Any suggestions?
That's somebody who's been through at least one power rack that didn't have a switch. Courtney, dive in.
Well, what I'd suggest is, and I've built a lot of fly cases with power distro in them, and I've tended to move toward these multi-power outputs where you have individual control, because a lot of times when you boot stuff up or power up everything in your system, there has to be a certain order of power up. You may want to power up switchers first, or cameras first, or whatever, in a certain order. And something like this allows you, which is a 1RU, and it has individual switches with power indicator lights on each channel and up to 10 channels. Mine, I think, has 8 channels. And on the back, you've got your standard connectors. The problem with a lot of these is if you have a lot of things with wall warts, they're going to interfere with plugging they're going to block. The wall wart may block the second channel there if it's a big fat one. So to handle that problem, I also get from Amazon these things, which I'll plug one of these into one of those channels, and then I can plug 4 different wall warts into this one channel, as well as this one also supplies 5 volts over USB-A and 1 USB-C there with a built-in power supply in it. And the wall warts that are plugged into these connectors on the top and the side, this is a 1 in, 8 out. So this can give you power distribution without blocking its neighboring plugs if you have a lot of stuff with plug-in wall warts, which is the bane of the industry these days. So that's how I handle that situation. And I put that the multi-output in the back of the case with all the wall warts mounted on it, and I strap all the wall warts or glue them in so that they don't shake out when you move the case around.
Omar, get on.
Yeah, I've got a couple cyber powers. These ones right here, they've got a cover on them, and they have this one has 6 on the front and I think 10 on the back. They make a version with just a power switch on the front and plugs in the back. I know a lot of people use Furman. I'm not sure if they make any with the cover, but I've been happy with my cyber powers. I've had no issues.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I have. We mostly do Furman, so these are power conditioners as well as power strips. Now, a lot of times for the kits that we have for racks, we often have some kind of APC, UPS in there as well. But then the Furman is usually the strip if we're using a strip there. Now, I want you to know that there are, if you're looking for to step up a little bit, there is Eatons, and these Eatons are pretty cool. So these will connect here in this strip, pretty high density, as well as they are all on network. So they will tell you what every outlet is doing while it's doing it. And so they're a little bit more expensive, $1,000. But if you're putting them in a rack that's going to sit somewhere for a while, they're pretty useful.
Are we redefining a little bit as 10x?
Yeah,
That's a little bit more expensive.
A little pricey.
Jason, you wanted to get in?
Sure. For audio gear, I've always used Furman, and I've yet to be disappointed. For one-off or front-facing things, this might not be in focus, but this is directly behind me. So this is just a whole bunch of play-out and encoders, and these are really, really cheap. So I wouldn't really trust them to do very much aside from being able to one-off click things up and down. I also have the Ubiquiti power strip that is designed for resetting your cable modem when you have a down internet. I don't use it for that, but it is IP-based and it works really, really well. And anytime we're talking about anything power-related, by a kilowatt, that's KILL-A-WATT. They're just so handy.
Alex, you want to get back in?
Yeah, and David Brady suggests the Legrand, which is a whole other level here. I mean, I think David's like, well, why don't you go down that path? Like, let me show you how to. So anyway, so this is the DC power distribution system that looks kind of cool.
Let's go to our next question.
Jeff Feely in Henderson, Texas asks, macOS Sequoia 15.7 is available. Is this considered stable for production? Jason Beige, what do you think?
It's more stable than 15.6, but honestly, the Mac that's in front of me right now is running Sonoma 14.7.8, and I have no reason to move it. I always end up with a stack of Mac Minis. This is an M2 that's running the most recent beta that I just bring in and out of the stack when I want to play with stuff. As a rule, no, like I don't care. It works perfectly. I'm stuck on Sonoma for now.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I am moving to Sequoia for most of my major machines over the next couple of weeks. I'll update a couple more here. I'm a little behind on it. My M3 Ultra is being moved up because it has to stay in lockstep with some of the new features, and so it's already on whatever Tahoe or whatever. So so it's staying modern there, but it doesn't have to do very much. It's basically just runs Resolve. So it's just and a 3D scanning software that I needed. So that's all it's doing. So it needs the newest operating system to run properly.
Chris Fenwick.
This question took me by surprise, and I'm shocked at how old I'm getting, because I'm typically like bleeding edge when it comes to OSs. And I was like, oh, I just upgraded my OS last week or 2 weeks ago. So am I on this one? So I went to look and I realized I'm not on Sequoia this, I'm on Sequoia that. But the most recent is Tahoe. I didn't realize Tahoe was even out. I'm not paying attention anymore.
Well, it's just
a week ago, Fenwick. Get with the program.
Well, I normally I'd be a week into it. I'm just saying I'm not paying attention.
Yeah,
anymore.
Usually when the new one's released, I start upgrading my production Macs to the last one, because I figure, well, they're done with that one. They're not going to. All we're going to get is security fixes after that.
I get confused because I'm on 15.6.7 and now they got 15.7, and if I don't look carefully, I don't know which is which. Anyway, next question.
This one's from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia. I watched a Zoom event yesterday with 5,000 Zoom licenses. How did they handle nearly 9,000 views with overflow and YouTube?
Alex?
Well, there's two answers to that. One is, did all 9,000 actually be there? Were they all there at the same time? So when you have a license for 5,000 Zoom participants, they all have to be there at the same time for the people to get kicked out. So they may not have done an overflow or very much of one for 5,000. If they did have that, then what you can do is you can stream to YouTube and set that as the overflow inside the webinar. And so basically what happens is that if after the webinar hits maximum, it just starts giving people a link to, you can go watch it on YouTube. So that's so there's a mechanism inside of Zoom to send people to the overflow as they roll in, if they get in over the licensed amount.
And that's in Zoom?
It is, yeah. It's part of the streaming service. If you go deep into the admin tools, you can link it to your YouTube output.
Next question.
This one is from Kyle Nesta in Philadelphia. Recommendations on a rolling monitor stand for 55-inch TVs. The screens will be mounted at standing height and positioned 6 to 8 feet from a hybrid presenter.
Yeah, you got a lot of action here. Jason Bache is going to start us off.
All right. So I've bought 2 of these over the years, and I find them to be pretty solid, especially for the price. They're $100, and yeah, there's not much to them. They assemble easily. They will accommodate just about anything. The caster wheels are a little bit junky, so I suggest you upgrade those. But as of this minute, it's holding the TV that is to my left, that is right over here, and it works just fine.
Omar?
Yeah, there's a wide variety here, and anywhere from like $50 up to $1,000. And one thing you might want to consider is the area in which you're going to be putting it and how much traffic might be there, and safety that comes with that. Usually the cheaper ones they'll hold the TV, but if they get a slight nudge one way or another, you might have a broken 55-inch TV shortly thereafter. StarTech makes some great cases, but they're pretty expensive. Otherwise, if you're just going to throw something up quickly, make sure you try to at least sandbag it or something to weigh it down.
Alex?
Yeah, and there's a couple different ones depending on what you want to do from a flexibility perspective. The question is do you want to move them around or do you just want them to stay? So there are kind of presentation one. I'm trying to find I was trying to find one while everyone else was talking. The one that I have that I use in my little studios when I'm doing setups are these ones. They're not particularly expensive. This is you can see I bought the last one earlier this month. And so this is a Pearl, I don't know, Pearl Smith or whatever, rolling one. These are pretty heavy duty. They're not particularly hard to put together. It takes me about 15 minutes to 20 minutes to set it up by myself. So it's not particularly hard. It took the first one took about an hour and about 20 swear words. After that, it's pretty fast to put it up and put it together and take it apart. So anyway, but they're relatively inexpensive. The other ones that you want to look at is there are some presentation monitor mounts, and what they use is it's called a French cleat, and what it has is just a bar that goes across. So you'll see a flat base, you'll see 2 poles go up, and then you'll see this one bar that goes across, and you put hooks on the back of your monitor and you set it up and clip it. Typically that base is really heavy, so it's already got some weight to it, and it's easy, as Omar pointed out, to throw sandbags on top of it and to really lock it down. So if you're not trying to move it, it's nice because it's very low profile. You can put it behind a desk. You can put it, so you can slide it behind a desk and it just sits there with 2 little poles sticking up. And if you go to presentations, if you're at an event, you'll see those everywhere like that, and so that's one to look at.
And if you want something that's totally bulletproof, look at the education market, because those monitor holders that go into like 5th grade classrooms where you're likely to have kids crawling on it are built like tanks. Next question.
This is one of my questions. How would director Danny Boyle have done those multi-iPhone camera rig shots in 28 years later prior to the iPhone 17 Pro without Genlock? How did they start the record of all the devices at the same time?
Chris Fenwick's going to help you out here. Chris?
Alexander, I don't know anything, but here we go. First of all, do you know approximately how many cameras was used in this particular shot?
I don't know, but it looked like more than 10. So
okay, so first of all, somebody like Danny Boyle may actually have access to early technology. If he's working closely with Apple, they may have been testing all of this stuff with Danny. That is absolutely a possibility. 10 cameras is 5 PAs. Roll camera. They all roll, and you sync it all up later. It's not that hard.
Alex?
Yeah, I think there's a high probability that Genlock came out of working with Danny Boyle. It's been mentioned in a lot of the press releases of how it's used, and so while they may not say that, they may have doubled down. I think that I don't know that for a fact, but I would say that there's probably a solid 50-50 chance that the Genlock was created for those shots, and they figured it all out of how to do that. If not, as Chris said, you can start them all, and then it's just that they're not going to be perfect as you go through it, and there's a lot of zhuzhing, I think that's the technical term, right up there with cruft. There can be a lot of
it's out of the fashion industry, yes.
Yeah, zhuzhing in post to get them all to kind of work together. But obviously, if it wasn't created by for Danny Boyle, it was definitely created, I think, because of Danny Boyle, because he either got what he needed or he complained a lot about the fact that he didn't have what he needed, and now we have Genlock.
Courtney?
Yeah, I think I saw a video on Corridor Crew's site about the explanation of the rig that they used on the 28 years later to shoot the bullet time stuff with the iPhones. And they had a portable rig that actually was light enough for 2 grips to carry, that had a semicircle of the iPhones, and they could actually carry it for handheld shots in that bullet time situation. So the lightness of the phones and recorders allowed them to capture stuff like that with a lot of dynamics, whereas if you had the rig like they did in Matrix, where they were all still cameras, it was a huge, trust that they had to build to hold all of those cameras equidistant apart, and you weren't going to move it around very much. But the one that they did for 28 days later, look it up on Corridor Crew. I think they had some behind the scenes footage on using that handheld rig, and the fact that they could put it on a crane too and move it in a jib arm and move it in and around and still get that multi-angle coverage simultaneously.
There you go. That's the rig I think you're talking about, the handheld carryable
There it is.
iPhone rig. Alexander Knight?
Actually, that's exactly, you can skip me because I was just going to show a photo of that.
Oh, okay. Alex, you want to get back? Oh, I'm sorry. Courtney was in before you. Courtney? Oh, that was Courtney. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. So I think that what's going to be really interesting is if because it's not just still cameras, you can do bullet time with video, so they can be moving and it can be, you can still, like what we saw with bullet time is someone popping up and freezing, because that's what they could do. And so now they'd be able to do a lot of other things with it. So it sounds like a crazy thing, but it's going to be a lot of, if they pull it off, because now you're talking about Genlocking 50 cameras or 75 cameras or whatever it is to each other, but you could have them all shooting video and have them all lined up. So it could be really, a fascinating set of shots. So anyway, I have to admit that I really want to rebuild a bullet time shot now with a bunch. Someone's got to send me a bunch of iPhones. It's not nearly as expensive as those cameras were. Those cameras were all $3,500 each when they bought them. So just send me a bunch of iPhones and I'll build a bullet.
Yeah, but the problem is you're all going to want iPhone 17 Pluses.
The 17 Pros are pretty. I have a 17 Pro right here. Wait, where is it? There it is. I went with the 17 Pro for a variety of reasons. I actually wanted the smaller size, but so this is the little 17 Pro. They're not that expensive. You can just get a whole bunch of them.
Just go to the local Apple store and order 30 of them.
Times
bring them back
30,
at the end of the shoot.
It's called the Apple rental. Yeah.
Let's
Retail
go to the next
rental, I think
question.
is what they call it.
Next question.
This one's from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Can you comment on the new SmallRig iPhone 17 Pro video cages and cases?
Jason, have you seen more than one, or is this just the?
No, I haven't seen more than one. And I got the 17 Pro, and I went with orange. I know it's a daring thing to do, and it's very unprofessional. But you know what? You put a NAR case on from Peak Design, and there's a tiny little bit of orange, and it doesn't really matter. So no, I don't really care for anything other than the smaller clip-on case that Alex has been showing so many times. It has always done the job, and it continues to.
Alex, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, this is the and again, exactly as Jason said, I'm not as, I mean, they look very nice. I mean, if you look at their what they're showing here, but it's not something that I would necessarily get. And I have a lot of SmallRig stuff, but I didn't look at it going, oh, I need that. So the Tilta ones as far as ones that fit right on the phone, the Tilta ones and the B-Script ones are more compelling in my opinion.
Next question.
This one's from Douglas Carmichael. What iPhone 3D scanning app would you suggest if you don't want to pay a subscription?
Jason?
I've yet to see one that does anything that doesn't need a subscription. Polycam all the way. I'm sorry, I stopped looking after I found Polycam.
Alex?
Don't bother. There's not any. I have like 8 or 9 of these apps. Polycam is the best one out there. All of them are subscription based. I haven't seen any that are buy once kind of thing and been worth doing.
Next question.
Brian Taylor in Washington, D.C. I've got a Big Sur era iMac. Is it feasible to use this as a second monitor rather than recycling it?
Alex?
No. it won't work that way. So yeah, you can't use it that way. But you can use it for clocks and little servers and a music player. Those are all things that are doable with it.
I have an iMac that's sitting over there that's back on Snow Leopard, and it actually can't be updated. I've tried like 27 different ways to bring it up to date. And at some point, you just have to recycle them because they stop working. We are ending here. Thank you so much for watching the show today. We appreciate it. We're here every single day doing what we do, and we appreciate all of you. We particularly appreciate the producers, those of you who ask questions into the show today. Without you, this show doesn't happen because you really do run this whole thing by your votes on the questions and your original questions. So thank you very much for those. Also to the panelists who are here to answer questions and freely contribute their expertise to the show every single day. We appreciate it. Thank you. And to our quiet, silent, but incredibly important third constituency, which is the behind-the-scenes people who are working to run the show. You see some of their names in the credits as the credits roll at the end of the show, but there are more people than that. And we truly appreciate your effort. We can't do this without the back-end crew at all. That takes me to the Select Reversal. If you had wanted to go around to the people and get this expertise, you would have traveled 22,000 miles. That's 35,000 kilometers, 172 million bananas for scale. We'll be right back tomorrow doing this again. Thanks for watching.
Too slow on the banana.
Did you miss your banana close-up?
Right at fade out. No, it was perfect.
Yeah, okay.
Slipped up, huh?
Slipped up on the banana.
Jason, did you get the Max or just the Pro?
Just the Pro. I'm over the biggest screen. It's just not needed. I've got the 1 terabyte Pro. That's all I need.
I have technical reasons that I needed the Pro, not the Max. I haven't gotten a Pro for 4 or 5 versions. So.
I'm waiting for the Max XL Ultra.
It's just an iPad with
yeah, I was about to
No,
say,
it's the
no, like
HyperMax XL Ultra.
my hands are
hold it
not
up to your-
small. I don't need it to be bigger than this.
I shot with it yesterday. It was pretty great.
You got the Max, Alex?
No, I got the regular one because I'm doing something with these that a smaller phone is more useful. So.
Yeah, I
wish I
can
could
guess.
go back. I got to say my 16 Pro Max does not have as much light output as